Hey everybody, I'm Shelby Rollins, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 experiences of the voice that I've been noticing lately that can lead to stumbling blocks in terms of the truth of what's technically going on in your voice. I've noticed in students lately that they've been reaching certain obstacles that they're having a hard time overcoming, and I've noticed a tendency to filter the truth of the matter of what's actually happening in the voice through their experience, as if their experience becomes the great filter that you judge what's actually happening in your voice. And this may be sounding like philosophical or whatever, but we kind of have to reverse the order of that a little bit. There are truths of the voice. There are absolutes of muscle and the science of your body of what's happening. And that really needs to be the filter and the basis, which is why knowledge, forgive me for the horrible cliche of an expression, but knowledge is power. Because if you literally can know what's happening in the voice and some of the foundational background, some of that stuff that seems kind of boring, you actually give yourself the ability to filter experiences the right way and actually come out knowing the diagnosis for your problem and things like that. But too often we focus on the problem itself and the fact that our experience is not lining up with what we think is supposed to happen. And that happens often when you mess up an exercise. You can't quite get what's going on, and it leads you to get frustrated and all of that. But we gotta turn that thing around so that we know the truth to judge it by, so that when our experience comes along and it kind of comes through that filter, that paradigm of the truth of the voice, then you have the right answers to fix it. You're not jolted and frustrated by the fact that truth doesn't match your experience, and your experience is the filter. So I've noticed in people this has been going on, and I'm realizing and having to encourage people that there's literally a greater propensity in you to sing right than to sing wrong, because your body and your voice was designed to function in the right. Like if you get sick, for instance, it's a sign that something is not functioning correctly in the body the way that it should. But most of the time, for most people, you're healthy. You get sick sometimes, sure. And sure, some people suffer from chronic sicknesses and problems, but most of the time you're generally healthy, and that's actually the way your body is designed to function and should be. And when things go wrong, it's a sign that it's something's off and needs to get fixed. So the voice is no different than that. So when things go wrong, it's just a sign of usually an incorrect coordination of the voice. And we're going to get to that later, but I wanted to start by talking about some of these experiences and some of maybe the top 5 problems that I've seen in people's voices that come from a lack of understanding of the truth of the matter. So the first of these top 5 experiences would be when somebody comes in and says, my mix is stiff, it's not flexible, I feel like it's hard, I'm always having to hold on for dear life to keep connected or to stay in my mix or continue that resonance higher and higher. And that usually means, okay, if that's not normal, that equals frustration. And the filter, therefore, is the experience of too tight, the mix is not flexible, and you're using certain exercises to get you there. One of the things I've noticed is we have to find release. We've talked about that a lot, but it's a bit of mind over matter. You have to trust your chords a little bit. Your brain is probably going to tell your voice, this isn't going to happen. You're not going to connect. So you need to make sure that you take the right precaution to keep everything held together. And what do we do then? We tense up. We take every seemingly safety boundary that we can place around our voice just so that we can connect, and we do everything that we can so that it doesn't break, and it'll get in the way ultimately of the coordination of your voice. It'll get in the way of connection and things like that because you've now enlisted way too much muscle to get involved. So it's a little bit of mind over matter. You got to stop thinking and even run the risk of total failure in exercises or in songs. Run the risk of it breaking. If it breaks, who cares? Because sometimes that'll expose the real problem itself, because you'll then start to realize your dependence on squeeze and compression to stay connected. And we sacrifice sometimes everything on the altar of, oh my gosh, I must be connected. It'll show you how much you're squeezing. If If your mix is too stiff, there's way too much squeeze happening. It's not allowing anything to breathe and move and be free. For instance, try something like your mum scale when you're getting into your mix without compression. Whereas sometimes in the morning, and I've talked about this with a student before, when first thing in the morning, the mix is harder to come by. You got to really take your time to warm up a little bit more. If you don't warm up at all, but you just start singing at night, at the end of the day after you've been talking all day long, it's easier to get your cords to connect without compression. Again, we try to connect just, if we can't do anything else, let's just get rid of the break. Let's just get rid of the break. And that'll lead you to squeezing all the time. I worked on this a lot because I realized I was compressing too much for a while. But if you're singing as you hear, I stayed connected, but it squeezed, and I lost the hiss and the flow and release resonance at the bottom once I got to the top. You didn't hear any more of that air. You didn't hear any more of the natural texture of my speech level voice because I clamped it off. I clamped off all that air at the top. I want instead to relax, and even if it breaks apart, let resonance carry you a little bit more than just tension. Even though I could even hear certain, inconsistencies or lack of perfection in my scales, my focus was not on perfecting tone, having ultimate control, having total connection all the time. My focus was just on not squeezing. And a lot of times that'll mean, hey, it might break apart. That's okay. So we have to be able to get through that. The other thing that you can start to work on in terms of an exercise is doing things like vowel-only exercises. A lot of times consonants cause squeeze problems. Things like a B or an M or an N, a lot of times those are the ones that make us squeeze the most. So when we mix them completely, it really is a test of your connection and of flexibility. And it helps with flexibility because a vowel only also means more air is going to be going through your cords. It's never going to get capped off at any moment by a sudden consonant squeeze. You can still squeeze, but it's harder. It's harder to do that on a vowel only. If you're still experiencing problems with this, start with an H, which is sometimes the hardest one to do because H is airflow. H is not cord closure like some of the other ones are, but it'll help you let go. Just release that thing a little bit and go, whoa. Get that thing going the whole time, vowel only. Put your hand in front of your mouth, see if you can feel that flow hitting your hand as you sing a scale, or if it all of a sudden clamps down at any moment, probably the moments when you're getting into a bridge or a transition, and when your air caps off, you're going to lose some resonance. Now, squeeze is not the enemy. We need some compression, but when we have so much we can't, move around freely. I remember first starting to do use mix in a song, like a high belty song in terms of application. I felt so stiff. Like I couldn't hardly move. I hit the notes. They sounded kind of janky, but I hit them. And that it does take some time to build the flexibility, and we're talking about a muscle that's a weaker part, and it needs a little bit more attention and a little bit more work. But let go of that squeeze. I'm telling you, at risk of it totally failing, you got to let it go. The second experience that I want to talk about that I hear a lot of students coming to me say when they're doing some of these exercises, they say, my mix is thin and whiny. These exercises are making me sing thin and whiny. And no, they're not. That's not actually the problem. The problem may come from an unbalanced regimen of your practicing in the voice, or it just maybe is from impatience of doing this one thing for a while and you're not seeing instant improvement. You got to be patient with that voice. You also have to remember the thing that's being challenged here is the edge. It's not all about what you hear on the outside, but what's physically going on in your voice. If you want more depth of tone, we get depth of tone, but we don't actually stop the whine. The whine and the thin sound is such a thin physical coordination of those chords. Sometimes there's even squeeze on that You hear a little bit of squeeze happening, but it's still very thin. If you want thicker, warmer, darker tone, all we do is add to what that's already giving you, which is the right coordination. We're just going to add depth of chord closure. It's going to give you depth of tone. Let's say you're living for a while just to find the light and right foundation on something like this. Testing here to make sure this doesn't pull up. That edgy, small, creaking door sound on like an N or an M or even a I personally like to start with the consonants. That is whiny. It is thin, but it's such a good and important coordination. It's not going to train you to sing whiny unless that's all you do till the end of time. But we add to that. Move from something like just the purity of a consonant, which strips down all the resonance, into just the whine coordination, just the purity of the coordination, and start adding slowly, like adding weight to the bar, add more tone. So going from there into a vowel, like a simply by opening the mouth, you increase resonance, start to very, very slowly increase chord closure. I don't always start there because sometimes when we start on a vowel, we make this sound like this. And we get too normal on it, which actually starts to lose the coordination. So start on the small consonant, whatever it takes to make sure all you're doing is making very, very small squeaky sounds. And you have to learn to develop a critical ear to conceptualize sound. A lot of times I'll say, do this. And somebody goes, and it's not always just that the coordination isn't there and we have to work on that. It's that you're not actually listening to the sound. You've got to be able to strip that tone completely away and just rely on an imitation of sound, a conceptualization of sound. Not a There's way too much heaviness. Think about what makes that sound like that. It's small. It doesn't rely on heaviness or a press. It sounds released. After you've moved from the then put a consonant back and go where you still hear that edge. You still hear a tiny bit of compression, but now we're actually starting to engage a little bit more tone to it. But we started light and right and thin and whiny, but we got to use that to get to the bigger stuff. So I'm going to move slowly from the thinnest possible to one of the thicker sounds that we could make, but it all lives in the same family of exercises, and all that's happening is we're going to go from thin, like if these are my two chords, thin to thicker. So we get something deeper. All right. And I actually moved all the way from the thin whiny thing, something that sounded nothing like a thin whiny sound, that I had to start there. And it's all about the balance, again, of your practicing. What exactly are you doing constantly? And are you being even patient enough with yourself to let you find the coordination before you judge the tone? The third experience that I've been hearing sometimes from students is that they're concerned that their range is not really extending. That's usually when I ask the question, okay, well, what are you practicing? What skills are you doing? If you have the Singing Success program, then you're probably singing along to those CDs. And while those CDs actually do go to pretty high ranges, if you stick to the exact same disc for a long time, or you pick the ones that you really want to use for your own warm-up, then you're actually never stretching beyond what's normal in your workout routine of the voice. And we've got to be able to push the boundaries just a little bit. I'm going to ask, are you starting your scales and ending your scales in the same range, the exact same notes every time? I even myself have to make sure that I remember to challenge students to not always start in the same spot, not always end on the same note, but go a little bit higher and push somebody out of their comfort zone. And 9 times out of 10, people go there. People can hit those notes. They just don't think that they can. And sometimes it's just also helpful to have somebody else challenge you to do it instead of you trying to make it happen all on your own. But that's the first thing I'm going to ask. The other thing is you can always start to adjust your exercises. Make up stuff. I'm telling you, you we don't have to always stick to the exact same syllables that we do on the program or the ones that you hear. I recently got this from a colleague where I was hearing, somebody wasn't working well with the nay, 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 so they switched it to a may, 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 and it totally gave more release just by changing the consonant. Sometimes we pull it all high, and the tongue going up to the roof of the mouth on an N consonant was pulling in this digrastic muscle. So we just switched it up a little bit. All of a sudden, you could take the same family of a sound, the same family of exercises, may and nay, can live in the exact same place and do the same thing for your voice, and yet your range stretched because you found the one that worked right for you. I personally prefer a may over a nay. Nay is one of my least favorite ones. It always causes me to tighten up a little bit. So if nay, 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 nay causes you to squeeze and tense up, let it go, relax that tongue specifically and say may, 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 may. You could also go from a b to a g if the b is not allowing you to really grip deep into compression. A G might, because G naturally starts with firm chord closure. Listen to the difference. To a G. That was actually automatically deeper. Always remember too, the coordination you're in is going to have a little bit of its own range. Sometimes they're really heavy and thicker than something thin that's going to really tap you into your whistle octave or something like that. So if the b is preventing you from getting to the top, find a better consonant, do a g. And vice versa, if you have the opposite problem, the g is too dense of chord closure and you can't get any higher, go to a b. You're going to release just a little bit but not have to sacrifice the depth of tone. You got to always challenge the connection here and see what it is that's getting you up to the top, what it is that's keeping you connected. The other one you can do is move from a yeah to an ah. That's kind of more of a bright chest voice mix, going like a yeah, 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 yeah. The Y, guess what that does? Pulls that tongue up again. That's going to tighten stuff up here. If this is one that's kind of giving you a little bit of grief, let go of it and do an ah, a vowel only. You're going to naturally relax that tongue, and it's going to also challenge connection because you don't get a consonant to work on. From yeah, 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 yeah. Do two even back to back, working your way all the way up the piano. Yeah, 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 yeah. When you set yourself up with something like a consonant, you find that when you take it off and you use the vowel, all of a sudden it's free, it's easy, because you kind of set yourself up for success. These are easy ways to start challenging your own range limitations. The fourth experience I'm hearing from people is maybe my favorite, and I think maybe one of the most important things to communicate, is that people will say, I can't fix my break with this stuff. I keep doing it, it's just not working. What you have to have is a perspective shift. You got to turn this thing around and realize connection is not the ultimate goal. I said it. You can call me blasphemous, but it is not. Coordination is the ultimate goal. Connection is a byproduct of correct coordination. If you can make your muscle of that voice work the way that it should, have the right amount of healthy tension, the right amount of full release and all of that, guess what gets fixed? Connection. Tone quality, control, even pitch sometimes. All of these things come from the basics of having coordination as the goal, the objective, so that when you're facing an exercise, you want to focus on other elements besides just, it didn't connect. And I think I mentioned this before, like when you're warming up in the morning first thing and all you do is squeeze just on the altar of connection, we sacrifice the coordination a little bit. And what that does is it leads to an unbalanced voice. It leads to a voice that has to have compression, it has to have squeeze to create connection. Or somebody who sings really, really thin only can have brassy and whiny kind of texture just to stay connected, but there's no depth or warmth of tone. So it's this whole balancing act, but you gotta focus on coordination first, always. Connection is not your goal. Connection is a byproduct. It is a unavoidable manifestation of correct coordination. For instance, if you're working on a nay, nay, nay exercise, you got to remember you need release, not squeeze. Nay, nay, nay tends to make me squeeze, so I have to really, really focus on this. But technically, we talk about the nay, nay, nay being a little bit more of a pharyngeal exercise, a little bit more of the meow and the wah, or even an NG exercise. So if the nay causes you to squeeze, you can do one of two things: fix the nay or change the scale. Gosh, for crying out loud, change the scale. We don't have to only do these one things. There are so many exercises that live in the family of pharyngeal exercises that you get to choose from. Especially in warming up your voice, why are we trying to make it so hard on ourselves? Let it relax. Afford yourself the opportunity to find the coordination. You don't have to just perfect the things that are hard. Find the one that's easy. All that's going to do is perfect the one that is hard. So, like I said, nay needs more squeeze. Nay has too much squeeze. Nay needs more release. If you're saying, like is my tendency to go, nay, 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 I can feel, and you can probably hear there's too much squeeze. I gotta let that thing go. Relax my tongue especially. Nay, 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 nay. Get it as ugly as possible to let go of that squeeze and trust that it's going to connect if I focus on resonance. Pharyngeal is all about resonance. But like I said, find another exercise in that family that encourages you towards right coordination. Our fifth example of an exercise that leads us to the wrong conclusion in the voice is when I hear people say, I can't get my sounds to sound like yours. You're probably focusing on the wrong thing, like connection or tone quality or things like that. A lot of times we also just really judge things purely based off of sound rather than digging a little bit deeper and thinking about like frequencies and things like that. It's not just about listening passively to music anymore, but figuring out what is it that makes that voice sort of sail above the mix. There's a frequency there. There's something else that's sort of ringing through there. That's going to lead you to certain conclusions about what kind of sound they're making, what kind of coordination they're using, and enables them to have the tone, the connection, all of that they want comes from coordination. So this sort of, kind of like what we were just talking about a second ago, that coordination is the goal. You have to focus on the right things, and there are so many things that we could talk about within every exercise and everything that we do, because it is deep, but at the same time we have to keep it really simple so that we don't get bogged down in our mind by all of the things that could possibly go wrong. Like make sure I'm standing up straight, I'm breathing right, I'm squeezing when I need to squeeze, I'm releasing when I need to release, I've got my jaw dropped, I've got X, Y, Z, all these different things happening. Way too much to think about. You got to pare this thing down. I'm going to give you two things to focus on: resonance and release. Always will apply, whatever you're doing. Because every certain coordination, every exercise has a desired resonance that it needs to sound like. Pharyngeal sometimes kind of feels like it rings from the back right here. That I feel it coming from that pharynx back here. The mix, you hear resonance split in between the head and the chest. Head voice, you want to feel and hear head voice resonance. You want to hear that sound. You don't want to hear chest voice and head voice. Wrong resonators. And the other one that you can detect is an edgy, whiny sound. A lot of times you feel resonation happening around the nasal cavity. If you put your fingers right on the bridge of your nose and go, you're going to feel a little bit of vibration, a little bit of something happening right up in here. That's good. You need to feel that because resonance is a goal. The other thing is release. You always want to feel release in exercise. Even if it's a big, boisterous, loud chest voice tone, you can still be in chest voice, healthy territory, but have way too much heaviness. If there's no release there, it'll feel stifled. It'll feel stiff. Going back to what we were talking about before, everything feels stiff. More release. In every coordination, not only just head voice territory, but everywhere in the range, you got to focus on release as well. If I'm going to use exercise like a no, 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 just not the goal is to get mixed, and the goal's not to sound a certain way. The really is just to use coordination the right way. I'm going to focus on resonance and release. That'll give me the opportunity to make it sound however I want. If I say no, 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 I'm not going to get bogged down in my mind by much because I want to keep this just like I'm talking, very speech level. But I do want to think about the resonance. I want to think about the no. A nice long vowel gives me release. It also helps me find depth of tone. It's not a nay or super wide. It actually gives me more normal sounds and a little bit more depth of chord closure. So that's where resonance comes in. The other thing that's cool about a no, no, no in this sense is that the O vowel that is long, providing resonance, also helps you provide release. Longer vowels will always tilt more into the head. So I'm going to say no, 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 no. I'm going for consistency. No, 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 no. Then I can start to sustain. No, 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 no. And I messed up, and I'm going to show you why. I started to pull that wide, and I could even feel it. It affected my tone. It even affected my my walk down. So there you have it. We always mess up because I wasn't focusing on the right thing there. In my mind, I thought, okay, I have to sustain this note and make sure it's right. And I lost sight of my goal, which was coordination. I lost sight of resonance, and I lost sight of release. You got to keep that back in mind. Keep that jaw nice and released. That's what I have to do. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. That was better. It wasn't perfect. That's okay. I made an improvement. And I fixed the core of the problem, which was the release for me in that one. And it helped me hold on to resonance, which then helps me connect. I hope this is helpful to you. I really do see a lot of people suffering from some of the same problems, which is not surprising, but a lot of times it just comes from a wrong perspective. So I'll say it again, we got to know the truth of the exercise, the truth of the voice and what's happening, the knowledge and the understanding of muscularly, things like that, what's going on, so that you have the right filter for your experience to go through. It'll keep you from getting frustrated and wanting to give up. It'll keep you from working on the wrong thing and trying to fix the more of the fringe benefits rather than the actual sole purpose, which is like things like connection and tone quality. We try to fix those first when really those, like I said, are more afterthoughts and benefits of having the right coordination of the voice. And a lot of this, you'll notice, kind of all ends up coming back to the same thing. But you have to remember, you've got to go for it and risk it totally failing, because if you don't risk, there's not going to be growth. Without risk, there is no growth. And that, you could call it a little bit of a philosophy of life, but it definitely applies to the voice. I'm telling you, the more boundaries you put around it to keep it safe and sacrifice everything on the altar of connection and keeping it in control, then you're never going to get beyond that. It'll always feel stiff. It will always feel like you're going to have all of those problems, too whiny, too stiff. It doesn't sound the same. There's not enough focus on the right problem. All of those things are going to come into play and make you focus on the wrong thing. It's going to lead you to frustration. Focus on the right stuff. You guys are going to get it. You just got to take some risks.